All right. Greetings, everybody, and welcome. It is time for Discussing Tabletop. I hope everybody's having a great beginning of your May. Of course, it's May 6th, 2023. Been a interesting week so far. Thank you for joining.
Some cool announcements, in my opinion.
There were. If I'm forgetting anything, let me know. But thank you for joining.
Yeah. Hey, it's me. You can't escape me, chat.
No, one of these days I gotta drag Joe out of the, vaults, uncryogenically freeze him and, put him back up, it's like, just force him in here. It's like, you can't escape us. Oh, God, the full screen stuff, I've got to remember it.
Yeah, it's still broken.
Alright. Let's dive into it, because there is a lot of actual stuff to talk about. There is a couple of Magic the Gathering related things I do want to mention.
Magic.
Yeah. So the full list of March of the Machines is out, and it turns out the, leak that things were awful were correct. That the set wasn't great.
It's, 50 cards?
50 cards, and...
Not even a set.
Well, the thing is, with this weird pseudo-partial set, I think the agreements that I've heard from people on Twitter and on YouTube that are in the Magic sphere that I've listened to was that they needed it to be something decent, for being this 50-card extra.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have to be great. It just had to be, a little better than okay to ask for the price, And it, at most, is mediocre.
Yeah.
It's
from what I've heard, it's not worth it.
No. The words I've heard is there are a couple of cards that are pretty good in various formats by the individuals for that. And then there's a bunch of legendaries that would be described as, if you're brewing for Commander, they might be nice. But, again, it makes it not worth it to buy the actual cards and just buy singles. It's the thing that I always go for is I oftentimes will buy singles if I'm looking for something for a deck. I don't do it as much anymore. I don't buy Magic cards very much anymore anyway, but...
if I lived near people if I lived near any of my good friends, maybe. But, man... I still haven't built anything with my Kamigawa box. It's just sitting there.
I'm behind on a few like that, too. My entire thing is, I do think about maybe one day getting, a second camera and setting something up for, a play live on stream kind of thing, but
honestly,
you have to find people to do that.
Just tabletop sim. For that. People have already scanned the cards into the thing.
Yeah. I tried doing one of those other programs that, allows you... It takes so long.
The one we can't really say the name of because of legal reasons.
Yeah, it takes so long to enter in your decks and stuff, and it's I just get kind of it burns me out that way.
I personally hate Magic Arena. I think it's a terrible program, so I'm not going to touch that for Magic the Gathering.
God, I saw something related to Magic Arena. I forgot about it just till now. It's coming technically to Steam, I think is what I saw.
Hey, is it going to have more than one fucking game mode?
Probably not.
Of course not. Why would it? It's just 1v1, which is the worst way to play Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, let me just check its page here. Release date, May 23rd, 2023, is Arena on Steam.
Woo.
I guess it's... The only thing about it is, it's easier to connect up with other people to play them, because you can play your friends easier, actually.
I mean, it's apparently they've also made it less shitty to get cards when you're not paying money. But, I don't know, man. 1v1 is just my least favorite way to play Magic.
I agree. I don't mind it for little bits here and there, but in the long term, I just like the multiplayer because, honestly, It's a time to like sit, chat with some people, and just do something while doing it. A lot of times.
I like when there's a big group of people just playing.
Yeah. Anyway, beyond that, there is some other stuff in the Magic Gathering world I did want to throw out there. They're doing their second Secret Lair Commander deck. They did one... I can't remember what it was called, but they did one a while ago. They're doing another one that's got, like... I don't know what the theme is, but for the... They've got...
Do you have a link for it?
Sure, let me put that link out, actually.
Just look at the cards.
They're showing off 5 options for commanders, I get, or 5 legendaries in the deck or something. I don't know who the commander is supposed to be, because you're supposed to have the colors, so I guess... I don't know. Because the 100 cards, and it confuses me this way.
I mean...
Yeah.
Okay,
White, black, green, blue, red. It's a rainbow deck, though, technically. Who's your commander?
It's got Nico Bolas in it.
It does. It's got this flip one.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's his one where he changes from just a dragon to a planeswalker.
Flip cards.
I do kind of like the design.
Here.
Well, like they all flip over from like this kind of like more cutesy art to like very like extreme dark art. So I guess it's like, because the idea is like, I guess from cute to brute is the thing, but I don't know. Go ahead.
Deck has, man, there's like a lot of planeswalkers here.
Huh.
If this is the card list.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of those flip planeswalkers too.
It's flip planeswalkers.
Oh, it's got a crap ton of flip stuff. That's the freaking theme, it looks like, for a lot of the
rainbow decks, so this isn't for me.
I rarely play a rainbow deck, and most of the time, like, they're barely a rainbow deck when I play them.
The most I'm willing to go is Team USA, red, white, blue. But that's the most I'm willing to do.
Well, like, I've got an artifact deck that's primarily, like, blue and white, and it does have a splash of making other colors for a couple other things that are very helpful for artifacts and stuff like that. Where, like, my basic lands do not reflect being a rainbow deck. It's just got a bunch of abilities built into the deck to produce other color manas with a couple of, like, special lands for the rare cards, which help a lot. I do that. So I have a couple decks that are splash rainbow, I'd call them. But, like, I think my only real, actual rainbow decks is I made, like, one of those legendary dragon decks. Where I was using, like,
Who's the commander in this deck?
I don't know. Does it actually have one?
It's got a lot of things that can be a commander.
Yeah, but then...
Are they giving you a choice of who you want as your... That's weird. But
again, you're supposed to play with all the colors, though. I don't know...
Yeah, it doesn't say anywhere here, including your commander, but who's... Yeah, it doesn't say who the commander is.
Yeah, I'm confused on this one. It's 100 cards though, so I don't know what they're gonna cost for it. But...
Oh, they've got this. I mean, the art's cute. I'll give it that.
Okay. I'm gonna have to wait to see about a price thing, but I see a price for it, and it's not anything I would like. But again, if I get someone's breakdown on the price of this and it actually is worth it, I can understand.
Jesus.
Yeah, $150.
I'm good.
Yeah. Now again,
well,
the singles could be more expensive than $150 even without the chuff.
The planeswalkers.
Yeah.
There might be some expense. Well, let's look at this Jace.
Jace Friend's Prodigal. I don't think that's a big one.
Telepathic. No. Jace. How much do you cost, Mr. Chase? the Jace one is $30.
See, and that tells me there's a lot of stuff in here that could actually have value, is the thing to it.
Oh, this Jace has gone up in price recently, too.
Probably some kind of new combo came into existence that works
Most
well with
likely.
it.
Yeah, it shot up last month in price.
But there's a bunch of, like, a lot. Most of the normal cards in here are rare or mythic. So that's the thing about it.
Bolus. How much? I don't think this Nico Bolus is worth that. Well,
The
Nico Bolus
Ravager.
is 20, 25. Where was Liana?
The Defiant Necromancer.
She's $3. She's not really worth a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think Chandra's worth that much.
Yeah, that version of
$6.
But I mean, like, honestly, because 100 cards and there are some expensive ones here, it very well could add up to the value.
Like $60 just in 2 planeswalkers.
So I'm gonna kind of put it as, yeah, it's expensive, but honestly, if you want a lot of these cards, and or you like the art style, and want a lot of these cards, and like, or at least enough of these cards are useful to you, it might be worth it for you. I would definitely wait and see from, like, there are people that do price breakdowns on all these kind of products, so
Yeah.
check those out and confirm it before you'd want to get it. But it's interesting they're doing it. Just 150 is, I just expect a lot, and I don't know if they have
That's
a lot.
pricey.
Yeah, I just don't know if they've got that a lot that I would want for it. But that's the Commander deck. There's some more Commander deck news, because Worlds Beyond makes me, I don't
What
know.
are they doing now?
Doctor Who Commander decks to celebrate the
I
60th anniversary.
I think that one's fine.
I think it's fine. It's an interesting idea. I just don't know what they're gonna do with it. I'm curious how they're gonna do a lot of these cards and stuff in the Worlds Beyond, and
What doctors they got? They got 10 or
one of the sets is dedicated to all the older ones. There is Blast from the Past is supposed to be all the classic ones.
That's
Then
the past. It's the classic. Classic who?
Timey Wimey is 9, 10, 11.
Fair.
Paradox Power is 12 and 13. And Masters of Evil is the villains.
Yeah, fair enough, I guess.
And the other thing about these is they have Plane Chase cards with them. Doctor Who Plane
Lands are
Chase.
so lazy.
They are very lazy.
All these land are just so lazy.
They are very lazy. That
They
is,
just slapped a TARDIS in the picture.
they just
all day.
they did, and I don't know about what are these collector boosters?
I
are
don't
they?
know, man. Why are there boosters for this?
Yeah, are they gonna just have like the new cards except in boosters and collector version? I just don't know why they have this for a set of commander decks. I'm curious.
They needed to make money, but also, Doctor Who's not that expensive an IP because it's kind of everywhere.
So I don't know about this one. It's interesting. It's
And the idea's fun. I mean, I like Doctor Who. I haven't watched it in years.
the weirdness of Doctor Who is one of those ones that I feel like would be kind of on the fringes when it comes to this Worlds Beyond. Like, Worlds Beyond works for different things for different reasons. I've always argued that some of them work better than others. This is one of those ones I'll put like, yeah, kind of, you know.
I think it's fun. I mean, I don't know enough about Doctor Who's like lore to tell you what the cards are gonna be, right?
I've seen a lot of it, and I don't even know the lore. Like,
Well, I mean, it's there, but you know,
a couple of years ago, when I was still watching actual TV, one of the I think Retro, one of the channels, went through like pretty much all the classic Who that they had available. So I did watch a lot of that.
a lot of the classic Doctor Who is really bad.
I skipped through a lot too. I'm going to tell you that.
Like that charm of a TV show from the 60s and 70s.
It was interesting enough to revisit a lot of it. Like, you can sometimes revisit older TV and stuff, certainly. So it's sort of like going back and watching the original series of Star Trek.
That one's also mostly not great.
But occasionally
it's got some great episodes.
Oh yeah,
but a lot of it's not
it was the exact same thing. I'm gonna tell you this what it was.
A lot of it isn't. TV doesn't age well.
No. There was definitely some good sets of episodes and interesting ones in there, and then there was just some bad ones and a lot of that. Anyway, but that is our kind of magic news. We also finally got a actual printout beyond what people talked about online for what they call the community update for D&D, honestly. So this is what was discussed at their summit, basically, ish, plus kind of like putting it out for the public, I guess. Plus some stuff they're talking about for more, I guess, like expected 2023 and beyond and all that stuff. So it's a lot of that information, that they're planning out. They're finally like throwing it out there. I'm going to put this here. Just this one thing, because I got to the bottom of this where they're talking about community events and stuff like that. They put PAX Unplugged in here. I'm going to say, if they actually fucking show up for it, I will be impressed.
Will they show up for this one? Maybe.
They have sort of showed up for the last 3 or 4 years. Like, I keep going to PAX Unplugged. You know what? Wizards sort of shows up every time. They're never really there. They're just like the cheapest goddamn thing. Like, do you want some magic test decks? Or, that's about it. They never show up like Paizo shows up, Paizo's like, oh, do you want to play test a bunch of shit? Anyway.
Man, like...
I think we've talked about it. Yeah, I think we've talked about a lot of this stuff. It's just like in a defined version that I guess watching and
don't use your fucking creator shit to market your your dumbass video game next time, alright? Do something like actually there, man. Don't show people pre-alpha shit for your thing.
Yeah.
It's not a press conference.
But that's how video games do it.
Well, you have a video game company.
But
you want to be one, Wizard, you're not.
Oh, but we've got people from the industry and they abuse everything like the video game industry. Why are you so mad, tabletop players? I gotta stop it. I'm gonna get actually upset.
Wizard is gonna never send us free stuff after all the years.
I don't think they... Look, okay,
they don't know who we are first.
That's the first thing. It's sort of like I've been impressed with, because like I watch 3 or 4 YouTubers that do some magic occasionally there, and the big one I watch is Declaring College. He's on Wizard's shit list, and he is like the biggest magic YouTuber.
If you're ever critical of anything they do, you're on their shit list.
He knows he's on their shit list.
Genuinely, you can't mock these guys or they get real mad.
Yeah, it doesn't take much.
They do really act like a video game company.
God. Yeah, it's just Wizards. But yeah, so if anything you missed when we've talked about it before, I'm just gonna put the link out there. We've kind of handled all of this, but
yeah, I mean, there's some actual good stuff, and then the rest is bleh.
Yeah. It's just a mixed bag if you want to take a look at it. I mean, I will still shake my head at D&D 5th edition 2024.
Like, you can do some good stuff, but man, I'm still gonna judge you.
We're extra judging because of all the shit you've done, especially after last week.
Especially, like, man, you've not had a great year, Wizards.
You really haven't. I'm like looking at all this stuff, and I'm talking about it, but I'm just like shake my head every time. It's sort of like Wizards.
No.
Just, I have to take.
I'll also imbibe some water.
I have to take all these products with a huge grain of salt. Is the unfortunate thing, because I
just can't get excited for Wizards products anymore. I don't think. I think, like, my excitement was already incredibly low after the OGL thing, and I think the Pinkertons shit sealed its fate.
It's sort of like, I can't say, certainly, I would say no to purchasing something from them. Because, honestly, I'm in that sphere anyway, and, like, I'm a big fan still of Magic the Gathering and stuff, and, honestly, D&D 5e. But I think what it's going to take is going to take a lot more than just being a fan now. Like, if they put out another Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, I would probably buy that, I'm honestly going to say. Something
I would struggle to, but it'll depend. I mean, especially from D&D, I don't think I'm going to really buy any more books, but...
Well, that definitely, that one's out. But I mean,
for
like...
Magic, I don't know, maybe, right?
It needs to be something spectacular is what I mean,
yeah.
At this point in time. You've lost a lot of me.
Like, we need to, like, listen to what people really want for me to buy a Magic product.
I'm going to be honest.
Isn't going to happen.
They probably aren't. I'm probably not going to see anything of particular use in the next couple of years. So
just going to be more garbage.
Because even the back to March of the Machines Aftermath, the story doesn't even seem like it's anything great. It's supposed to be a story-based thing, and it's just blah.
This whole Phyrexia story was here so they could just change planar travel.
Yeah.
That's it. They just wanted to change how that works, and they tried to make a cool epic story in, like, 2 parts.
And I guess make a reason why that they're taking a step back, so then rather than, like, 2 or 3 planeswalkers per set, they might put out 1 at most.
You know? Yeah, I read a summary of it. I wasn't very enthused with the story.
No, the story... I haven't finished the summary. I've got, like, halfway through it, and I'm like... It's like I shake my head at it. It's like...
Like, I mean, the last bit has a bit of the Wandering Emperor in it, which is cool. But, like, man... Rip Tamio.
It got such bad storylines for so many characters that were interesting ones.
Like, I'm sorry... If you want your story to have impact, you should have killed a Johnny. Just kill him.
I'm sorry, even killing a Johnny, though, I'm like, none of the deaths feel earned in this entire thing.
No,
the problem.
And like, when you just kill Tamio, a planeswalker no one cares about, right?
Yes, this is the card set that the Pinkertons went to retake, and guess what? It sucks.
It's pretty shit.
Yeah. It was not worth the issue. And maybe that's why Wizards did it, because they knew it was terrible. Because they were just...
I suppose it's possible.
Threw something together with the most minimum of effort. Well, I mean, the most minimum effort was Double Feature, which was just really terrible, but... Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to talk about Paizo, because it'll make me feel better. Because Paizo usually does nice things, and honestly, these are fine. There's a new Starfinder hardcover book coming out, Ports of Call. It's post-Drift Crisis, so it's post their big event where Altered... I really don't know what happened with Drift Crisis, other than like...
I don't know. I don't play Starfinder. People seem happy, though.
I think it just altered the way things kind of worked with hyperspace and stuff like that a little bit. They did their Star Trek warp travel issues or shit kind of event or something. Yeah, but fixed it, I guess, with magic and, the power of friendship. I don't know.
That's usually how it goes.
Anyway, they're basically introducing like 10 major ports across the various planets and stuff that you can visit with your characters. Rules for running cargo, contacts, side jobs, new species, some extra downtime rules, which for a spaceship game is probably really helpful.
Yeah, you don't need downtime.
And some starship options. So it sounds like it's in general, pretty good book to add more stuff in.
Seems like people are excited for this book.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for them. I don't personally play Starfinder, but it's cool when it gets things.
I honestly, it's one of those ones I do want to try out at some point in time. I've got a short list of, like, games I want to pick up at, like, an adventure and run it on stream for, because it'll be, like, I don't know, like a month or 2 adventure and switch between them. Something that we can, like, test. That's probably something I'm going to try to start over getting into the summer. That's maybe a goal. get into those. But that's another one. But yeah, so big new book. Interesting to check it out. And I think the other big Paizo Pathfinder thing we have to talk about is their new video game, which is based on the Abomination Vaults. And
it's a dungeon crawl hack and slash.
Yeah, and action RPG. They're doing, I guess...
You play as the iconics that are in that adventure path, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine by me. I think this... Okay.
The reactions have been very mixed.
Okay, I think I can understand why. Because remember, D&D did one of these with Tritz.
Yeah, and it wasn't good.
I think that's why there's some mixed bag about it. But I think the big thing about that one is it did not have story. As much as Diablo's story is batshit, it has a story most of the time.
Yeah, Diablo does have a story, unfortunately.
That makes it at least more interesting usually than most things, you know? So... I want to know more, you know...
I'm interested because I am personally more likely to play a hack and slash game than I am to play a traditional slash complicated CRPG.
Yeah.
But I do need to see a little bit more before I'm like, yeah, this is cool or this is bad, you know? Well, it's neat. I'll give it that, and I'm glad they're trying something new.
I mean, you know, it definitely is an interesting idea. They could be successful with it. As much as I have my complaints about the Pathfinder games I've played before, there was a lot of good in them. It just ended up being, I'm going to actually say it, the part that was adapted to video games tended to be the bad part of it, rather than the actual Pathfinder parts of it.
Yeah. One of the...
Fucking add your own end of a story.
Yeah, one of the issues with basing your video games on an adventure path, the thing I wish they did was do their own story for a video game instead.
Yeah.
Is you're inevitably going to hit the point where people are going to, and this has happened, I have seen this happen, with Kingmaker Wrath of Righteous, people are, when people want to run those APs, there is a chance someone's going to say, well, I played the video game, so I know the rough story already, right?
Yeah.
Because, well, there aren't exact one-to-one retellings. They're close enough.
Yeah.
So you're basically, if you've played this video game, you're spoiled on what happens in the AP. So people are less likely to run those APs now.
I'm at least going to say, like, I've looked into Kingmaker, and they make enough changes that I feel like it would be fine.
Wrath of the Righteous, from what I've heard, does have enough changes as well.
Yeah, I think those two do a pretty good job of, like, changing enough.
I also don't know what this BKOM Studios is. I don't know who they are.
Well, again, like, I think it's it does sound like a lot of the idea is diving into the Abomination Vaults, which is just a mega dungeon anyway.
This wouldn't... Abomination Vaults wouldn't be a fun CRPG because it's just a dungeon crawl.
Yeah.
It is genuinely better that this would be a hack and slash, right?
Yeah.
So if more information comes out and it's good and it looks interesting, I'll give it a look. But as it stands, I'm a solid maybe.
All right.
Which is more than I can say for most video games these days.
Hey, I think we've mentioned one of these before, but I always like mentioning them because it's the continued third party adds something to the bare bones of 5th edition that we need. Magic items! A 400 400 magic items in a book.
Ooh.
Emporiums of Wonders. It's funded. 25 days to go. It's on Kickstarter.
Magic items are good.
Yeah. Adds a lot more stuff that you'd want to check out. Yay, magic items. I think that's about what you have to say about it. It's a book
you can actually see a list of the items and get a sneak peek.
Oh, yeah.
And
a couple
you don't get to see what they do, so you can see a couple of them.
Yeah. And there's a couple of examples, too. So,
items are good. Just like you're kind of expected to give items as rewards.
Yeah.
Efficient.
And,
So more choice is good.
mm-hmm. And all different rarities from common on up, so you can... I think that's the thing I also like is there aren't a lot of common magic items, which are just kind of weird and fun.
A lot of the common magic items are meme items.
But I don't mind that.
Well, they're fine, but they're not something you would really ever take.
That's why I'm hoping like maybe they're slightly useful. That's like slightly useful. That's all I ask for, slightly. But,
yeah, like a lot of the current common stuff, those Edens, Xanathars, and Toshas don't actually mechanically do anything useful. They're usually a cosmetic thing or a ha-ha funny.
Mm-hmm. So finishing up, $11 will give you their copy, and it looks like a player's guide to, I'm guessing, this company's setting.
I assume,
yeah. And a voucher for a print-on-demand book at cost if you want to actually get a print-out version of it, which honestly is not bad.
37 Australian, which is something American. You get a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that looks like a bunch more of their PDFs and stuff too.
I think AU was Australian. I'd assume so.
AU does seem to be Australian, I'm guessing. So, anyway, yep, that's a thing to shout out there. Modifius is putting out a revised rulebook for their Elder Scrolls Call to Arms, which I believe is their miniature game.
I think that's kind of new game.
Yeah, the one that's in the Fallout Wasteland Warfare vein.
Yeah.
I guess they're planning it to come out a little later in May. They've put out the announcement for it. They've got at least 2 new chapters. They've revised the rules with a bunch of errata they've done over the time since I guess the original book came out, which I'm not sure when that was.
For what came out?
The original Elder Scrolls Call to Arms.
Do not know when that came out. I actually don't know much about this one.
I knew a little bit about it, but I think I talked about it like a number of years ago or something.
It uses the same rules as Wasteland Warfare, but
it might be the precursor to it. Is the thing
it might be. This may have come out beforehand.
Yeah.
And I do like the Elder Scrolls. I think it's pretty fun. But rules updates are always good.
Let me just see these. Let me see your bundles for core rules and stuff and see when these came out, if you can tell me. That is not telling me when these came out.
Board Game Geek, help me. Oh, it came out 2019.
4 years? Okay, I can see that.
4 years ago. Yeah,
that's pretty
about
good time to
need
revise it.
an update.
So, honestly, I don't play a lot of these type of miniatures games, but I, from my experience in looking into, Fallout Wasteland Warfare and this type of game, Modifius does a pretty good job on these kind of more...
Yeah, if it's anything like Wasteland Warfare, it's going to be pretty good. Because Wasteland Warfare is, in my personal opinion, maybe the best miniatures game.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to assume it's very much so, in that vein, probably, again, a little earlier on it, so they're probably taking some lessons they learned from that and building on it, which is great. So, we got another Kickstarter to throw out talking about here for a second. It is anime style, but really the one I know. I wanted to talk about it.
One of these the other day.
Yeah, Otherworlds role-playing game. Really the idea of why I wanted to talk about it is it's supposed to be modern fantasy is the concept of it. So or modern/future, I guess they call it future fantasy. So it's sort of like fantasy taken to at very least our technological level, if not a little bit more. But I feel like they're not going to the sci-fi route of it. They're still trying to keep fantasy, to a degree on it. They do say they've got a lot of video game inspirations on it. They have a huge amount of inspirations they talk about. It's a bunch of Final Fantasies.
There's Final Fantasy VII. There's a Halo 2. I think that's Ruby. I've never seen that. Jack 2, great game. Ratchet and Clank, great series. Yu-Gi-Oh is kind of lame.
And Borderlands 2.
Oh yeah, Borderlands 2 is alright.
Yeah, I mean, like so like combining all these into its own interesting, I guess, style, where you're still getting that like more technological, futuristic stuff, but it focuses more on the fantasy side of all things. I like that idea, honestly. You know, it doesn't have to be like I guess light sci-fi almost, maybe a little bit, rather than hard sci-fi. I don't know.
Soft sci-fi.
Soft sci-fi. That's the way to say it. So, a lot of like classes, races, all that kind of stuff. Character build options, magic, a bunch of rules. They're a 2d6 system, which
Fair enough.
I've played a few of those before. It's not a bad system to use in general.
I do like 2d6 quite a bit.
They're usually pretty rules light systems, pretty simplistic, which isn't necessarily
They're
bad.
easy to pick up and play.
Yeah, so probably would be another one. And it's funded. If they're only looking for 1,000, they've gotten 2,000 some. 25 days to go.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, so giving a shout. And it looks like 25 will be their digital core book. And 45 would be the physical and digital. So there you go.
Ooh.
Woo. Moving right along. Speaking of fantasy.
Oh shit, fantasy.
Yeah. Good old Green Road and Press has decided that they are going to continue to give a bunch of support for their own Fantasy Age system.
Nice.
I haven't heard a lot about Fantasy Age over the last couple of, I don't know, a year or two. They might have been putting out books of it, and they're just
Age Adventures now, apparently.
Yeah. So now they're putting out like a lot more. They've basically said like, hey, there's I guess the second edition, which I don't know when the second edition came out. It might have been actually more recently the second edition came out. But they're putting out a whole bunch of stuff for settings, adventures, and things like that. So the age system, I've heard some pretty decent things about it. It's originally based around when I think they did they did Dragon Age, I think. And they came up.
These guys have done a Dragon Age one. I do know that for sure.
Yeah. So I think Green Ronin did the original Dragon Age, and then after they did the Dragon Age RPG, they made their basic, more generic system, which is the Age system. Hence why it's called Age.
Yeah. I don't know anything about the Dragon Age RPG as a note, so
I'm kind of in the same boat. I've only heard some people talk about it without actually like talking about how it's played, or they mentioned it and I've forgotten, which could have also been true because
Dragon Age world is fun. So maybe the RPG's fun. I genuinely know nothing about it.
Yeah. So this is their basically more generic fantasy system that they kind of did, but it looks like they're also just coming up with some stuff on their own, which honestly might be a better idea. Then they don't have to be beholden to the owners of the Dragon Age.
Beholden to BioWare.
Yeah. It's like, well, we did move some stuff here, but then we're just going to take the mechanical system we have, we're just going to make our own stuff. Oops. They do have a quick start for Fantasy Age 2nd Edition, which I think is available. They say they have it here. News that I linked here. So, just navigating their site's a little.
It's not a great website. I'll give it that. If I put it somewhere between a Paizo and a Steve Jackson, this is somewhere in the middle.
God, Steve Jackson came. I don't see.
This website looks like it's at least been updated since 1996.
Yeah. I don't see that, so there might be something they're coming out with soon for the 2nd edition as a quick start. Just because it might be. I'm assuming it means that Fantasy Age RPG 2nd edition.
I assume the 2nd edition is new-ish.
Yeah. You tell me how old and new it is and its release date. Oh, it's not out yet. That's
oh,
why.
it's not out. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
curious if it was
that's
released or
fair.
not. Okay. They don't tell you dates sometimes. I just heard they were working on it, and it means that, oh, they are actually working on it. So it's coming out in June.
Fair.
So that makes sense. Now this all makes sense as to why that we haven't heard anything about it for bajillion years. Now they're saying a bunch of stuff about it. Because they're like, hey, we're doing a second edition. Check it out. So, cool. I'll throw the Kickstarter in here first, but it's something that's interesting because it's a VTT yet not a VTT, I guess. Realm Architect, which they call it an immersive world-building VTT, which I'll have the website for them too. So it sounds like it's. I don't know what it means by this. I tried to read up on this.
It looks like it's just from judging from looking and scrolling through these, it looks like it is a VTT with a hefty amount of like map editing you can do on the fly.
Okay. Because I tried
like a VTT where you can I think just do a map on your own.
That was the thing, is that's why I kind of like almost felt like it was, because they called it a world building virtual tabletop, and I'm like, how is it different? And I tried to like read up on it here, and it was just like spending a little time looking into it. So it was an interesting idea, but so okay, it's supposed to be very easy world building tools.
World building's kind of the wrong word. Here I feel.
That's the question I've had about it. It is preloaded with the 5e OGL codex, they say.
Fair.
What does it stand for? They just claim it's supposed to be a very UI friendly kind of thing.
Yeah, it's. I mean, more VTTs are generally good.
Yes, it creates some competition, and it drives people to strive to make theirs better. Unless you roll 20, and then you're just simple, and you're the bland toast of VTTs. But sometimes you just need some bland toast.
Yeah.
As someone that uses it a lot and does like it, I do recognize I'm insulting it a lot.
It has issues. It has its problems.
God. Where's the link to this one? So yeah. So if you want to check it out, it is funded and got some time to go, and it looks like beta access is available for 23, and it looks like you get a certain amount of stuff and subscription depending on it. You can get a lifetime subscription for going 224. I would say for going into lifetime subscription for doing that one, make sure you research it a lot and like stuff like that.
Yeah, make sure you like it.
Yeah. Certainly one of the other ones where you just get some tests on it, that's fine, but up to you. For those of you out there, just it looks interesting. If it is easy to use, that's good.
Yeah.
Realm ease of use is a big thing for one of these. So
it is.
How easy? I don't know. Give me a second to actually get a better link, because I only have a news link for this one, and it only unfortunately. I only unfortunately. Okay, so there is at least one place I can go to. So I'll link the games site here for this product, because unfortunately the news site that I originally used to get information about this only links to the Amazon page for some of the stuff. So I had to go look up the actual thing. So Hasbro and Funko Games are releasing some 25th anniversary Cranium stuff, like a new version of Cranium. I like Cranium a bunch. I'm going to say that first. The original Cranium is a very fun game. I don't have a lot of chances to do it because it's a party game.
It is a party game.
I've
never played it.
They've put out a bunch of other similar party games like Hoopla and a couple others. They mentioned a few here. Hullabaloo and Big Brain Detective game, I think, are for more family related. So they also skew to a bit younger audiences. Where Hoopla, Cranium itself are more preteen, teen in that area where you start out with. So you have to at least have some, cognitive thought, I don't know. Not to small children, but it's not for the smallest children. So, I mean, the 25th anniversary, it's got a whole bunch of new stuff in it, and that's pretty much the best I can say about it. It's a $35, a new addition to it. They've been, spruced it up, added some new stuff, and, if your clay is dried out because, God, it's clay that they give you the game, or your dry erase stuff doesn't work anymore, get a new one.
Yeah.
Look, I don't talk about party games on this show a lot. It's one of those ones I can definitely say is very fun if you want to look for a party game. Needs a lot. I got one last main topic to talk about today, and it is a book which I'm sure has been released in not English, because this is the core rulebook of Historia getting a bunch of releases on Mundifius. It's a dark fantasy. Look, it's got this little, English thing in the corner of the image, and I'm like, it was released in a different language first, wasn't it?
Let's see. Look it up.
Thank you.
Hey.
So it's based on D&D 5e's rules. Hey, or as they call it, the world's greatest video role-playing game, because that's the way everybody refers to D&D without calling it D&D still.
Yeah.
I doubt it's that, really. Well, no, it still is. God, fucking wizards. Anyway, it's a dark fantasy Renaissance setting. And it's got a land populated by anthropomorphic animals. So, furries. It's 8 playable species.
Italian. Italian.
10 classes, some better firearm rules, some historically accurate to Renaissance equipment, a bunch of optional rules and encounter rules for 5e and stuff, a system of factions and careers with ranks and prestige, so a lot that they added in here, and that's just the core rule book, and honestly, they threw out a bunch of stuff for this system. I only mentioned the core rule book, but they also have let's see here, an adventure book, an art book, a GM screen, a lore book, and a map pack. I think that's it. Some of these are not like the others, but that is the way that products go nowadays. So, if you are interested in this, check it out. It is another new releases this week. Okay, we can talk some topic today. Let's see what topic.
We can talk about topics and things.
Yeah. I can bring out one of these topics that. How about that one? Sure. It is one that I put on this chart a while ago, but it works still. So today, for deeper discussion, why do we not talk about rules heavy versus rules light? Because honestly, there's a place for both of these, and it's a thing that we can definitely dive into. So, I guess I should define these first, because I think we've talked about rules heavies versus rule lights for systems, right? Certainly, I think we have. And yes, plenty of RPG systems are more heavier with their rules or lighter with their rules. Something like a D&D 5e is a very rules-light system. Something like the original Pathfinder is a very rules-heavy system. But it's not just necessarily a system, but also how you play a game sometimes too, which can define rules-heavy, rules-light. I can play a version of 5e and overlay a bunch of custom rules in it and make it more of a rules-heavy system. I could play fast and loose with original Pathfinder and make it much more of a rules-light system. It's honestly a very hard thing to nail down, I think, when you really define it that way. Because it's how much are you relying on the rules to almost control the game you're doing, I guess, is the way to say it. If I'm being very rules light, I am relying more on my players and my story to determine a lot of what happens. While rules heavy usually uses the rules to make sure everything stays within a certain boundary. Which isn't bad, because boundaries prevent crazy shit from happening. Does this sound about right for what I've been mumbling about so far?
Yes, for the most part, from what I could hear.
Okay. Loud noises, yay.
I live next to a fire station.
Yeah, I'm not like a block down for me, so I can hear it too very heavy, you know. Yeah, I think the thing is, the more rules you have, the more you're trying to prevent stretches and breaks into the game. Like, you have your rules there to prevent the game from breaking, period. But if I'm playing on a rules-heavier system, it's honestly, or I'm playing rules-heavy, I am probably either worried that something may happen that will threaten the integrity of the system, or, like, maybe it's you don't trust your players that they won't do something crazy.
Here is a spicy take about rule-heavy games. Specifically, I'm going to use Pathfinder as an example. In Pathfinder, there is a rule for basically everything. There are rules to get around those rules. That's why it's rules heavy.
Yeah.
Pathfinder is very easily broken by players.
Yeah.
So Pathfinder has issues beyond being... The rules of Pathfinder don't stop from being broken, because you can use those rules to break it.
It's this catch-22 of, I think, when you talk rules heavy, yes, you begin to kind of get this situation where you're attempting to prevent certain things, but then you open up bigger holes sometimes.
Look at a lot of, and this is no shade at my good friend Sel. Look at a lot of the things he plays, especially in Pathfinder, and how busted they are. Right?
He does that in 5e.
Well, it's because 5e is just a bad game.
I mean, it's...
but when you add... Rules-heavy systems have almost the opposite issue, where a rules-light system can be broken by just not having rules. Rules-heavy system can be broken by just having too many rules.
It's... Yeah... I think the thing is that, honestly speaking, the concept of rules heavy, rules light is something you have to keep an eye on in what you're doing. But it's also sort of like you don't actually want either of them technically.
No, you want a middle ground.
And the problem is there really isn't a system that's built middle ground. They're more middle ground.
I would say Lightning and I's weird hybrid disgusting monstrosity that is our version of 5th edition is pretty middle ground. But also, we have worked on it a lot.
Yeah. Like, also I would say, like, something like Pathfinder 2nd edition is closer to middle ground than...
It's still a little heavy on rules, but...
It's still heavy.
It's not as heavy.
But they're moving it closer to that center. And so you can recognize that. And when you're at that center is probably best, because then you don't have to worry about the rules being broken just because of the rules, but you also have less of those loopholes by adding rules.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, even just playing either aren't bad.
No.
It just comes down to, I think, a lot of times your players that you are working with.
It's also you as the DM as well.
That's true.
You'll always have a preference for which one you prefer. You've been in, I think, 2 of my games at this point. You know how fast and loose I am with rules, right? I could never, with how I DM, I could never run a rules-heavy system like Pathfinder First Edition. So I am too fast and loose with rules.
I think that's the weird thing about me is I can really do either. Like, I certainly am not like as heavy rules as I was for Pathfinder First Edition. I kind of like...
You kind of have to be for PF1E.
Yeah, so like I still am like, you know, is there a ruling on it? And then I kind of like just go by my experience a lot of times after that, rather than like, you know...
Like, the ruling you made on the Harrigan fight was my ability. I 100% agree with that. I think that should just be how it is. But it's written nowhere that it should be that way.
Yeah. The writing is just confusing about it all. Like, you know...
It's because it's taking writing from 3.5 and adding layers onto it.
Yeah.
Whereas the writing in 2E is a lot more clear on things.
Then again, like, it's sort of like I also do... enjoy doing something like a 5e, but the thing is, like that, it's just sort of like you're just muddling about and figuring stuff out. I think for me and my style, sometimes I need those rules to rein in my in because I like just doing things sometimes, and like I feel like my examples of some of my games where I had really interesting ideas and I had then the good players, and then when I played off my players, things sort of went off the rails. Now, granted, I'm going to use Records and Children of Wrath as examples.
Right.
It wasn't just my fault, but I didn't help my case. I feel like me and my combination with the rules did not help my case, but like what was going on with the characters and stuff drove the story. Records is not nearly as much as Children of Wrath. Records had some issues just in the way that like it was presented in me controlling things and stuff like that. I can recognize the problems the game had. Not that it detracted from people's fun. Same with Children of Wrath. But Children of Wrath went like a direction of insanity. Like,
that's a game I can look back on and be like, yeah, I was there for that. You know what I did for most of that game? Played Final Fantasy 14. It's like, man, there was just 2 people doing their own thing for that entire game, and I was just there silent while they were doing it.
Yeah, I felt like I could have been playing Final Fantasy 14 and I was
just
streaming this
opened
game.
Up Final Fantasy 14. It's like, I'll level my fishing today.
Yeah, you can do something that you can level, that you can like be there if you're needed.
I don't have to put effort. I just have to click one button. I'll just do that for 3 hours.
Yeah, God, there's just some times where I was like, can I do a fishing game?
No, you have to suffer.
Yeah, Legacies of Kain, I think, because World of Darkness systems are fairly rules-light systems, technically, too. But that one also suffers from having some issues with rules-light that are a lot larger than, I think, C&D 5e, because World of Darkness combat is always so bad.
World of Combat... The combat in that system is just genuinely terrible. It doesn't matter what version of it you're playing. Every version of it is bad. The combat.
I like World of Darkness' rules nonsense.
That's true. Well, I mean, I played like recently an incredibly rules-light system to the point where there were basically no goddamn rules. The Avatar RPG basically doesn't have rules. Aside from you do a thing, you take a point of thing, and those are the core rules to that system. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
It was still fun. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I struggled to play it a little bit, but it's fun, you know?
Yeah. And again, like, I think the thing is, each rules light, rules heavy system, you have to take it from that point in time, and it's the person running its job to drag it kicking and screaming a little closer to the center as best you can, you know?
Yeah.
It requires you to know your system is one of those things. Like, if I'm playing a World of Darkness system, you know what we didn't do very often in Vampire the Masquerade? Combat!
Wow, shocking. It's like VTM is not about combat.
It's almost as if social situations and like political intrigue are what it's mainly about. Though apparently that was forgotten in 5th edition.
Combat, you can play werewolf, nerd. Even though that combat's still also pretty bad.
It's slightly better just because
it at least works and is more fun to roll out.
Yeah, because they're like, you know what we're gonna forget about? Guns, because you're a werewolf and they don't do anything to you.
Yeah, you're a horrific monster.
Just claw or bite the things to death. There we go. Are we done? Great. Oh, you've got like magical death sword? Great. Use that.
Yep, pretty much.
I guess that's the thing I should really specify with werewolf. It's got melee combat that works okay because it's
functional melee combat.
That's it. But yeah, so certainly knowing your system, knowing like 5e is very rules light. So it's basically like tell a story, walk to place, fight some things that you put together and hope that the challenge is correct. Call it a day.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, my favorite systems are the 2d20 systems, and those are incredibly rules light.
Yeah. But again, like, I think, like, from this week, playing Star Trek, there were some times I struggled with, like, can we get a different check? But it's sort of like, there isn't really other checks I can call for, you know.
Star Trek has very specific check requirements. I feel like that's a big failing of it. Yeah.
I mean, like, certainly it would require me to come up with situations where those other ones are more applying. Like, I would specifically have to be like, you're dealing with first contact or diplomacy of something. But the problem is then it's all that. Now, the way to kind of correct this is to maybe have, like, pull a Star Trek TV show and have an A plot and a B plot, but that's hard to pull off successfully in a role-playing game that makes sense, you know. In a show, I can mash two scripts together and kind of make it work.
In a show, you can cut away to different scenes.
Yeah.
If you do that in a role-playing game, you're still going to have players doing nothing.
Yeah. That's why I was like, your character, which we'll talk about a little later, and like Eric's character weren't doing as much, and I was like, God damn it. But the thing is, like, again, like, I kind of thought about having a little bit more security things, but it's sort of like, when you sort of get into it and you have like 3 hours, it's sort of like, it's kind of hard to come up with things that are not combat.
It was an enjoyable time still.
Yeah.
As it is every year.
Yeah. So that's rules light one. And again, like, when we talk about the Pathfinder rules, certainly, like, Skulls and Shackles and playing through that has been a very good way to kind of dive back into the stronger rules, but also to see, like, I gotta be honest, there's just some chuff at the rules occasionally.
I mean, at least once per stream, we have a 10-minute rule conversation. Multiple fish combat.
The combats just bring out some things.
Combat is... It's because Sel, myself, and Joe are playing weird things. We're playing weird mixes.
I feel like the only person that's not playing a weird thing is Yakul.
He's Eric. Eric's just playing a fighter.
Eric's playing it. Henry's playing something weird, but Henry doesn't do anything.
Henry is playing an Arcanist, which is just a wizard. It's just a wizard, but they cast like a sorcerer.
Yeah. And he's just doing buff wizard, which is perfectly fine.
The transmuter wizard, which is, in my opinion, the strongest wizard you can play. I think he's doing a great job playing an idiot who is not as strong as he could be, and I think that is great because he could really unbalance the game way more than it already is.
I've dealt with transmuters before. I think I've told the tale of the... He never did it, but he threatened it with existence, and it scared me. The transmuter with the magic item, which you can choose a spell, and it can convert... Because it was Carrion Crown, later levels, you can convert any spell to an equal spell as long as it's above, like, a certain level.
Yep.
And so he can memorize all his spells. But he also had, like, spell mastery disintegrate.
Yeah, I know. I've heard this story before.
Yeah, so it's just sort of like, I had this threat of all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like, 15 disintegrates. It existed.
It just happens sometimes.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not that, like, you're going to do it. It's that you can.
You could.
You know, it's right there in front of me, and you've already made your disintegrates.
I want to ruin the DM's encounter for today.
Yeah, you convert to an equal spell or lower level right off the bat, meaning like, oh, hey, I have these all 7th level spells memorized that I don't normally, you know, put disintegrate in. Now it's disintegrate. Fucking goddamn it. Things like that are kind of an issue. Anyway, that's a different problem.
That's a side tangent.
That's a side tangent of, you know, don't do stuff like that to your DM. Even if you don't do it, don't have things in existence that could... You're playing a Kazarin who's like, I will nuke the world. Kazarin actually said it, you know.
Yeah, Kazarin did threaten to nuke the world with Power Stones.
Don't do that to me, because then I actually have to deal with it. Don't do that and have the possibility with even saying the threat. Just be like, saying you have a nuke is bad, and be like, I will use it. Having one and not saying you will use it's just as bad.
Yeah, Children of Wrath really went downhill as soon as Kazarin became a character that he could play. As soon as that character was rolled, the game went downhill.
Somewhere that character just went to, like, the extreme. It's like...
Became a terrorist.
There's just this fine line, and all of a sudden, like, terrorism just spout out after, like, somewhere. I don't know when it happened, just like this...
Got radicalized at college.
I think it was college radicalized it. But, yeah. So, like, certainly, I think when we talk Skulls and Shackles, I have done stuff that I've been like, you know what? We don't have to roll out all this crap. We can just ignore it, or we can just kind of skim over it and, like, skip out. Like, things like, I gotta be honest, as much as ship combat might be interesting, it's just not as fun as just having people board a ship and fight, you know? Because it's almost like 2 combats I'd have to run for ship combat, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
ship combat isn't great. I mean, it's not great in any system unless it's a specific ship role-playing game.
Yeah. Something like Starfinder I think is a little better because they build the ship system into the entire thing.
Yeah.
I've only tested it a little bit, so I'd like to really dive into it at one point. But again, that's a system built for it. It's also like the mass combat rules. I'm just like, ew.
Mass combat is just never fun. It just takes too long.
And we talked about that before, and it's the same thing. That is something that tends to be a lot of rules related to it because it's something crazy. And again, you can do mass combat in 5e too, and play it by the loose and fast rules of 5e. That's just, again, just
my
the problems of mass
advice
combat.
to you is don't. Because I've done that, and it took 6 goddamn hours. It was not fun.
We talked mass combat. We go back and watch our, you know...
One of these episodes.
It was a couple weeks ago, I think. On the 15th of April. I can look because I've got my document where I keep track of all this shit in front of me. I try to keep track of all this shit. You know, I try to be a good person.
Like, anyone could make better mass combat rules than what the 5e UA is. Because the UA is just bad.
But, again, something like that adds a layer of combat. Things when you're doing, like, if I'm adding an aerial combat, if I'm adding a vehicle combat, if I'm making underwater combat, if I'm, you know, we're talking just like Shadowrun where it's got, like, an astral combat or a matrix combat for hacking and stuff like that. all these add layers and complexities, making them heavier systems. Like I've always said for Shadowrun, just play normal, skim the shit over astral combat and matrix combat. As interesting as those systems are in place, you know, keep it fucking simple and don't dive deep into it, you know? Just like, hey, we're not gonna go full VR in the hacking. Just roll some stuff, you're your meat body doing it, or something like that. Please don't dive in. Or don't ignore the astral plane completely. I'm not going to do anything with it, you know, because then we're only dealing with one system. And that's the idea. Is you're not, you don't want a lot. I think that, I don't think there's much else to say after that, I guess, is to just try to find a middle ground, be familiar with the rules, and don't let the rules determine everything for you. Like, if you're playing a very simple and light system, just be ready for some decisions and stuff. Like, when you know a general idea what's going to happen in a session, be ready for those decisions you're going to have to make. You know, I'm playing a World of Darkness, or 5e, or a lot of other light systems. Be ready to kind of fix things a little bit if you need to. Got an idea of that. And if you're playing something heavier like a Pathfinder system or a Shadowrun system or something like that, that have a lot more rules in place, know where, one, you can cut corners, and two, know where you don't need to walk to get into rules. There are definitely big ways of doing that, and that can also involve, like, you know, being careful where your characters get their spells, feats, and stuff from, and their classes. If you just want to keep it simple for Pathfinder or a lot of those things, restrict what they can do. I do like the second edition, they actually do add a little bit about this by having, like, rare, uncommon stuff where they're like, hey, don't take these unless you go talk to your GM about them. Okay, great. You know, you can just go to your players and say, common stuff only, and then call it a day. And you probably don't have to worry about it second edition as much. Because shenanigans on players help not add, you know. Okay, we got a hot take from Lightning before we end here.
Hot takes.
And never go full astral. Yeah. Never dive in, never go full... Yeah, Shadowrun.
Illegal, actually.
Just, those are just...
Straight to prison.
I avoid those on that. But, anyway, if the hot take shows up. But, yeah, so, that's, generally, just speaking, be ready to play with the rules to make it a little better. Because you're going to have to. Middle ground is what you want. Yeah, the rulebook makes a feeder item that warns the DM about players getting it. Yeah, so remember. I think the thing for Pathfinder 2nd Edition is they don't really warn people about it. It's more like, hey, this is rare or uncommon, mostly because of story reasons. Like, you know, that's what the way they develop it is it's not around much. But also, like, some of the things that are a little more unusual and go a very different direction. Like, Gunslinger is an uncommon class in Pathfinder 2nd Edition because guns have a unique way of changing things for the rules.
Gunslinger is technically only common in one country.
Yeah.
There's only like a handful of places in the Pathfinder world where guns are a thing.
And a lot of those, like, weird, they've basically made all the weird, this is a feat ability or something from a certain area into uncommon stuff. So they make it less that it's necessarily just from that area. Now, they say it's kind of like from that area or this style of stuff. But I think the idea is that, like, uncommon and rare stuff are supposed to have approval because they are, story-wise, normally uncommon or rare. And, you know, they add an unusual flair. Not necessarily unbalancing the game, necessarily, but they add something unusual to the entire game. Yeah. Like, if you're playing Gunslinger, you're adding the basic firearm rules just there and there, you know. So it's like, oh, that's different. Or there are some, like, ancestors you can play that are, like, on one island on one part of the world, and you're like, why the hell are you on the other side of the world now? Something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, if the unbalancing stuff, that's... Fortunately, we haven't had that on Pathfinder 2nd edition, but there are stuff in, like, Pathfinder that I really should, like, if I do another Pathfinder 1st edition game, I think there's stuff that I will, like, move back from, honestly, that were previous decisions I had made or previous adventures. I'll just change them. Like, I will probably, honestly, take a step back because I don't ever take advantage of it. The keen kind of improved crit stack it, which I always did from an older system. I allowed that. I'd probably make them not stack anymore because I think that's the general.
A little broken when they stack.
Yeah. So I think I did that because it was something I always did because I think that's a leftover that was vague enough in older editions like 3.0, 3.5 that we always had stack back in those days. It probably was intended never to be stacked back then, but it was vague enough. There was a lot of vague shit back in the really old rules that when we moved to Pathfinder with the group I was in, they somewhat kind of unstacked it, but we don't always, notice those kind of things and go along with it. We're keeping to our old ways, and I should really, evolve that. Anyway, that's hot take on that thing. I have to fix some stuff if I do another one, which I kind of maybe want to do afterwards. I don't know. How about our week in gaming? Did you do anything on Sunday?
We did a Sunday thing. It was a short game. Cell's character went and talked to a wizard in a dream, and agreed to some stuff. Kind of.
Doesn't Cell's character agree to a lot of random things?
Yeah, but this one is like, man, Cell basically got a business card that allows him to one free casting of Wish.
Okay.
Which could just kill Cell's character, which would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Be very funny. And I took a Fey man out clubbing.
Yeah.
Took Jay's character out to a nightclub.
Nice. Nightclub.
All we had session was just talking and Cell's dream stuff. I think that was it.
Okay. Did you do anything on Monday?
I knew I didn't do anything on Monday.
So, my Monday game ended. So what had happened is we did have a get-together, and it's the problem is that, to summarize it, we took a hiatus for like a month on the Monday game because there was something going on with Worm's work that the best way to describe it is, before this happened, during the week, he had a bunch of free time. And he could dedicate a portion of that free time to preparing the game. When the change happened at his work, his free time disappeared. So now the very little bits of free time he had to force in the game stuff. So he took the break to try to spread it out and stuff, to get things set up and stuff. And he did the smart thing of realizing when you try to have a start up the game then on Monday, he's like, man, I still had to, the thing that was going on didn't end. It might not end for months. It might be months more of me having to spend, if I would normally dedicate, because he likes preparing a lot, 4 hours a week, when really now I had, maybe 8 hours. I could spend that 4 hours, still have 4 hours to myself. Now I have 3 hours a week that I can dedicate to anything.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't do that. And I'm like, that's understandable. Your amount of time you had to work on your game disappeared.
It happens. That's just life gets in the way.
Yeah. So it was a very reasonable thing. He ended his game. Whatever. I did enjoy the story. I wasn't super committed to it because my character was... Honestly, I built them as a kind of just their character that did some good... I had some good moments, but I wasn't super invested, heavy story person, Other characters had better story things. I didn't mind the role I chose for my character to be the, I chose to be a Chester. Because Chester's there mostly for the ride with a little bit of its own story things, I think, Chester does stuff, but Chester isn't that invested in the big story stuff,
Fair enough.
I'll have to talk with Joe if he wants to do any. I think when we talked about him on the thing, he didn't really have anything big story thing that he wanted to add in. It's sort of like.
No, I don't think so.
And he's okay with being along for the ride.
Yeah,
that was.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Those kind of characters are fine. You can still add to the story without having to be deeply invested in it. Anyway. But that was Monday. We kind of canceled it out, so I have a Monday free that I might fill with something at some point in time.
Ooh, free Mondays.
Yeah, I ironically before that I was talking to Worm a little bit about like what his plans were for ending the game, and then he decided to at the end. Then I was like, hey, look, I do want to add some more stuff into my schedule. Monday would be an ideal day, honestly. So just wondering. Anyway,
Fair enough.
Did you do anything on Tuesday?
There was a session. I wasn't there for it.
Okay.
So I don't know what happened in the session.
Okay. So some things happened. You weren't there for it. Adventures.
I wasn't there for it.
Yeah. Wednesday we had this week.
Did have Wednesday.
Buccaneers came back, and I feel like we're okay on schedule for the plans I kinda have. I'm working on setting up part 2 already, which you probably know about, and more Lightning know about as I've got to get a good reason for rebellion. So I kind of have begun to establish that with the way that Bone Fist is reacting to the characters and stuff like that, and we'll do that. And then, something that I was originally thinking that you guys were going to do in like a what's it called, epilogue kind of chapter, you're doing now. So I'm like, whatever, I can get it out of the way.
Yeah.
I decided to do Cell's thing now. I'm like, whatever, it doesn't really make a difference.
Not involved in that. I just vibing.
Yeah. Which there isn't a lot to that, honestly. It'll probably be done like probably before the first break. Honestly, I don't have a lot. I didn't have a lot of plans for it anyway. It was sort of like congratulations, you can actually be like recognized by this church as someone important, rather than just a weird, violent dude, even more violent than normal. A weird, extra violent nerd. We're priest of Besmara. What? That's not a normal thing. And then you can you came up with some decent plans for traveling to Chelix. I'm honestly happy about that. So we'll see which way that goes. We'll probably work on that next time. So, and then Thursday was May the 4th be with Star Trek.
Yeah, there was that.
I totally went to a legally distinct ice planet where there was a legally distinct ice planet base that was abandoned a while ago, and they had legally distinct adventures. And there may have been a giant fuzzy hand that was severed by something.
Best Star Wars movie.
Yep. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I eventually just settled on, I'll just do Hoth.
Hoth's a good one.
Yeah. And it would have been the whole arm. Whatever. I made it a hand. It was...
Yeah, actually, excuse me, streamer. Luke cut its whole arm off.
It's legally distinct.
Luke didn't cut that arm off in Echo Base.
It's legally distinct. It ended up in Echo Base for reasons. Mm-hmm. I didn't use my threat that much. I only used it a few times. But again, it's kind of hard to do that, and you guys rolled a lot of complications.
There were a lot of natural 20s rolled, which is not good.
Not in a 2d20 system.
We were burning through our momentum very quickly throughout the entire game.
I try to give you it so many times. I'm like, I guess roll a difficulty 0 check here to build some momentum, because I want to give you some.
We burned through it constantly.
I did enjoy it.
It's fun.
It's a one shot. It's silly. It's not meant to be a lot, so it went well. I don't feel like we had any major issues, and we did end it with a relatively fine ending. I guess there wasn't really like a super resolution to things happened, but
we escaped.
You escaped, and you found out that most likely the it was an old distress call that just happened to be picking up in that area or something, you know.
Yeah.
Long since abandoned.
I had a game on Thursday. I ran one.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. You ran one
I did
beforehand.
run a game.
Yeah.
They fought a big monster. They beat it. 2 people got chunked in HP as is tradition.
Mm-hmm.
They fought a horrible monster. Horrible, gross-looking monster. That was...
Gross.
Weirdly angelic in its voice.
Interesting.
And then they went back to town to claim the reward. And they're in an entirely different world. And they met someone identical to someone they already know.
Interesting.
And then, at the end of the session, they met Cell's character, but a different Cell's character. An exact clone of Cell's character. There are now 2 Saveshas in the world. God help me. But I caused it at least, so... Oh, you did crush... Lightning did crush its bone with gravity magic, which is pretty cool. But basically they're running into doppelgangers of people they know. I don't know what the players think is going on. I know it's going on because I'm doing it, but it's been a fun time. It's been nice to do weird things for the last 2 sessions. Doing the weird stuff has been fun because it's kind of in that awkward spot of one character cares very much about the story. One is just kind of there, kind of carrying. Lightning's character has no real connection, and then Lynn is like mentally checked out of the game. So it's a little bit difficult running it at times, but it probably end next month if they continue on the track they're on. I mean, they could just fucking detour and I have to run it for like longer, but who knows?
Lynn is a source of chaos that I do occasionally end up enjoying playing with, but also, like, I understand she just has a schedule.
Sometimes Lynn has hard days at work, and then just kind of checks out. It happens.
Yeah, which does, you know. Honestly, yeah, it does its thing. Work kind of can suck.
Could be that way.
Did you do anything on Friday?
Friday? No. I played Solaris most of Friday.
The only thing I can report on is if you missed, I did have 2 tabletop streams this week. I talked about Star Trek. I went over some of the species you can play. Honestly, trying to like figure out some stuff about these species. There's so much weird ones that are like references. They might show up in more than one episode, but they're just. I like they give the option of them.
Half of all Star Trek aliens show up for one frame in a single episode.
They really are like that. I'm glad they add in stuff on them, but like I'm like, these are very unusual. You give me like, for every like Katian, which at least shows up in a bunch of people, cat people, you give me like a bird person, which I'm like, has it showed up in anything other than maybe the Star Trek animated series, which I'm not sure it showed up there. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it showed up in a TV series actually anywhere.
Like, you always have the gamut of, is it from a comic? Is it from a book? Is it from one of the movies?
Yep. And then I talked I went into some basic rules and some basic rules of combat for Pathfinder on Thursday, which was... It's not terrible, but it just takes a while to go through all that because...
Yeah, there's a lot of rules. It's a chunky boy.
It's a chunky area where, yes, the system is very similar if you know Pathfinder 1e or Pathfinder or like D&D 5e or any other like D20 system. It is very similar to a lot of those. It's just a lot of like the little details you really should know, and I try to like get that across. It's sort of like learn some details. This isn't too bad, honestly. If you get those details down, you'll be fine playing it. You know, the 3-action system and understanding the degrees of success system and calling it a day is pretty much it. So check those out. The one's already uploaded to YouTube, the Star Trek one, and the other one will be uploaded tomorrow. Is on my schedule to upload. I originally was going to upload it today, but my the reason I didn't have a tabletop thing today is I was very busy today a bunch of the time. And, I probably could have... No, it was past the time I would have uploaded it, but I took my 20-minute nap this afternoon. Look, I was tired. I had some food. I went and I tried out a hibachi place, so it's like a pseudo-Japanese place in town. It was really nice.
Nice.
They had pretty decent miso, and honestly, they did not go wrong with the tempura. The hibachi stuff is just kind of a teriyaki. It's hibachi.
I've been out to a proper restaurant in a long time.
I did takeout, honestly. I could have been out to there.
Last takeout I had was McDonald's, which is barely food.
It's nice enough that I can at least arrange to, like, go out with a cousin of mine I'm pretty close with occasionally, like once every other month or something. So that's nice. So I at least go somewhere, but I don't have many excuses otherwise to do it. Picking up food sometimes, but anyway. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you Momo for joining me as per most often here. I guess the schedule this week coming up, of course, we should be on schedule for Discussing Tabletop next week. 3 tabletop shows should be on. I've already told people, but I'll report it here also, that next Saturday's tabletop will start a little later, but it should still be on schedule. Monday will be more of the Final Fantasy VI kind of open world randomizer. That's been fun. Fallout 4 on Wednesday, and then Spelunky 2 on Friday for my gaming streams. Buccaneers is off next week, so there should be no tabletop gaming stream that I'm doing. I might work on some other stuff. I think that's about it. And we should be actually, if you're behind on Buccaneers, I should be finishing uploading the rest of them to YouTube if you want to watch them there. You know, honestly, as much as I can suggest checking it out on the viewer on Twitch, it's usually not quite as good, honestly.
The Twitch viewer isn't great sometimes.
Yeah, so I will be finishing the rest of the uploads. I'm like at episode like 12 from last season, so I should be finishing it up next week. Getting the rest of those out. So if you want to check those out, they'll be up on YouTube soon. Any other changes or updates? Discord, Twitter for me. Check them out. Links are in my about and stuff like that, so check them out. And, I guess that's it. I can't think of anything else. All those are there, and I guess farewell, everybody. Thank you for joining, and
Bye.
hope you enjoyed and learned a few things.